And we are live. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brian Altucci, and I'm a co-host of Just Two Dads with my podcast partner and a partner in Thrive, Mr. Shawn Francis. Today, we've got a very special episode of Just Two Dads. We're now into our second year of our podcast, and so isn't it funny? We're waiting until our second year to start talking about communication skills. Maybe that's something that we should have started with in the very beginning. But we've got a very special show with Natashia Kletter and her assistant, Lila, here on Just Two Dads. Awesome. Welcome back, everybody. This is really a special episode because I don't think we've actually had we've had a guest who has had their right-hand assistant to help with the demonstration. So today is very special. Joining us today is Natashia Kletter and her lovely assistant, Miss Lila. Hello, Lila.
Hello.
Well, there she is. Okay, good. All of a sudden it froze. Today, I want to thank everybody for joining us on live on Facebook. And if you're catching us after the fact on YouTube, thank you. Please make comments. Share it with your friends and family. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We're also on podcast outlets everywhere: Google Podcast, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and we're also on WSTX AM radio in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we welcome all of you. If you're viewing or listening, today's going to be a fascinating episode. We'll be talking about communication skills, something that I think I'm good at, and yet at the same time, I know I'm not that great at it because I tend to ramble and fill up a lot of space. So, but for families who have children with challenges in early stages of communication, being able to give them the opportunity to express themselves is so critical. Whether you have a neurotypical child or a child with challenges, communication is such an important. It's such an important way that we interact with our world. So today is going to be fascinating. Excuse me, it's going to be fascinating, and I can't wait to get started. So before we formally start, I'm just going to say hello to my co-host, my friend Shawn Francis. How are you, buddy?
I am thankful, grateful, blessed, and excited to get started. And awesome. With that said, let's kind of jump right into it. We'd like to welcome Natashia Kletter and her daughter/assistant, Lila. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Hello. Sure. Hello. Natasha, I'll start with you by, beginning. When we have people, our guests come on, we begin by, having them tell us a little about themselves. As a parent to a child with special needs, we just do what we do. We don't see ourselves as warriors or heroes, but that is what we are. And every hero has an origin, and from those origins come our superpowers, whether we see them as that or not. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you were raised, how you grew up, and how that has gotten you on the path and your introduction to the special needs community.
I am an Oregonian. I've lived in Oregon my whole life. I went to lots of different schools growing up. My mom had some health problems, and so I experienced being the child in the situation where the parent was going to the hospital, and that really taught me a lot about being resilient and working hard and having compassion. And my husband and I got married. 10 years later, we had our son Kenny, and he just came into the world on his own terms, had open heart surgery as an infant, and that was just the beginning of the journey, and the doctors and the therapists and trying to help him thrive, not just survive life, but really blossom, and seeing what tools were available and how do we change our environment to accommodate his needs. And when he was 18 months old, Lila was born, and got to experience how quickly the milestones just go with a typically developing child, and the relationships value in the home and the connection, and how to help each of us really grow as individuals and as a team.
Wow.
Amazing. I just wanted to say, so our friend of our show and a guest, Matt Failer, is the person who introduced us, Matt Failer, up in Oregon as well, and his daughter Aria, medically complex, as I like to call, right? So not that there's an extreme distinction between special needs and medically complex, but those words are, they're valuable because basically it's a child who is dealing with certain issues, whether they're cognitive or physical, and they have to, again, need some support to succeed.
Yes.
And so first of all, we're grateful for Matt for making the introduction to you, and excited to hear, yeah, hey Matt, and excited to to carry this story forward. So always grateful. That's the one thing about this podcast that Shawn and I set out to accomplish, was once we started to talk with folks in the community, that the web of those who are involved in the community becomes tighter, and that we all work together to explore what's happening in the space and give people access to resources that are available. So always grateful to Matt. So glad to hear that. So you lived in Oregon your whole life, and your first child has some medically complex issues, and then
Yes.
beautiful Lila enters the scene, and she's neurotypical. And the difference between then and I know obviously there's some developmental milestones that you can see the difference. So what sort of what actions did you take, or what did you see because some people to know what it is that you do today, and the work that you're doing now. So talk about that a little bit. Like, how did you?
Well,
what did you see? What did you explore? Yeah.
The experience is wildly different from parenting a medically complex child or a child with has a neurodivergent brain. You can be a helicopter parent when your child has a lot of health issues, and here with this one, we're not helicopter parents. So it's just interesting how you can be the same. I'm one mom, but I have two very different parenting styles with my two children because they're two different people. But the foundation for both of them is all twins. The foundation is the same. It's a communication and empathy and respect will always be the dominant basis for our family. We are a team. Sometimes it's give and take for one child, more give and more take for the other, but it always comes full circle, and making that a family priority of respect and empathy.
Great. I learned early on with Jordan, my daughter, that this term that we all have called the terrible twos, when our kids get to some point and they're in constant tantrum mode. Usually the difficulty is
from number blocks.
Oh, all right. So this is a little different than that, maybe. I don't know. But the terrible twos really, it stems from the frustration that children have in their inability to communicate. Right. I mean, that's where they get frustrated, right? They're like, you don't understand what I'm saying. I want more. And so right. And so, early intervention programs, I know, focus on when children are young, focus on the different ways to communicate, and how, with some use sign language or they point to visual cues or whatever it is, but use it ways so they alleviate the frustration and get to a point where communication is facilitated. And so that's been your experience as well. And
yeah, we used sign language, simplified sign language, because our son has motor skills challenges, apraxia, which is a disconnect from the brain to the body, or brain to the mouth. It can affect speech or fine motor skills. And so we were beginning to use picture exchange communication system, PECS, and it wasn't working for us at all. It was creating a problem, not solving one. So that was where I chose to make something better. We needed to solve this problem and give our child a way to communicate with us. It's not communication is not a one-way street. It's, you know, back and forth.
A 12-way.
Sure. 12 directions.
Sure, that sounds good too. So tell us what you created. Tell us what you've done.
So I created these communication soundboard books, and it was based off of our experience with, there are lots of soundboard books out there, but they're always like cow, moo, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the one that really worked in our house was the one for colors. And so it would have a page with all the different colors of foods or toys and balls, all the different things. And then you push the button and it would say red. And my son would bring me the book and point to the purple page and point to the blueberries. And he would point to the yellow page and he would point to the banana. And they were photographs. And that's different from the communication systems that are available. They're always drawings. And for a concrete thinker, black and white thinker, they don't think in cartoons, they think in photographs. So we need to change the photographs to meet the to be able to see what is actually being presented and honor the child and their way of thinking.
Is it time for me to
So your impetus was really to make it easier for him to communicate and for you guys at home, not to necessarily start a business or something that
I was not motivated to create a product. I wanted my child to communicate.
Okay.
And I ended up designing his high-tech device as well. I took the communication system and rebuilt it on his iPad. It was not. Oops.
Now let's one second there. That's admirable. It's noble, but it is also not something that the average person is just going to jump up and do. Tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, is your background in that field, or is your background just so that your mind was so determined to figure out how to make that happen? Because that's a big deal.
Both. I don't have a computer background, but I did go to school for mechanical engineering. Okay. And so the thought processes are there. I was taught to analyze and think about how do we solve this problem. And we had our own problems in the home and we had to fix it. So I would come up with ways to teach him how to walk and teach him how to access his toys in a functional manner, just manipulating the environment. And so, yeah, I wasn't looking to start a business, but I came up with a product with this idea, and I had faith in it, and I presented it to my aunt and uncle. And so we started the business together with the hopes that it would be successful in a very specific child demographic. And we've had lots of opportunities to work with families and with therapists, and it has been wonderful and very, very gratifying, rewarding to get to see something that I designed strictly based off of what I learned with my own son, that we have the opportunity to have an impact on real families, on a child's life, solving problems and reducing frustration. That's the biggest thing is behavior is communication, and the child is not misbehaving. They are frustrated and misunderstood and
not able to communicate. Right.
Yes. And so, if you imagine that you can't speak, and if you can't handwrite, and if you can't type, how do you communicate? So, for getting that bridge, and for a child who has maybe some learning disabilities, you can't just hand over a high-tech device and expect them to learn how to use it. That was not our experience. It was very deliberate. And
so for those of us I'm sorry. So for those of our, you know, we have listeners because the show is obviously going to be available on AM radio on WSDX in the Virgin Islands, and then on podcast outlets. But some are watching us now on Facebook Live and will see us on the YouTube channel. For those that are actually going to be able to see, can you give us a demonstration of how that works, and we can kind of talk through it so that those that can hear only will hear as well? Great.
I'm gonna try to change the screen here, so see if this makes a difference. Natasha, go ahead and say something.
Hello.
Okay, it kept us on Shawn for some reason. Hello, Lila. All right, I'm gonna try to. When you guys start doing the presentation, I'm gonna see if I can flip the screen around.
So the demonstration is we have some food options here. And I have the green book, which is called I Want to Tell You, Let's Eat. And on each page has a meal. So there's breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then there are vegetables and fruits and meat and cheese and drinks. And so it's a visual menu. And that was a tool that I developed for my son at the time.
And there's also dessert.
And there's dessert.
Can you dessert out?
Our favorite.
So this was something that I did for my son using photos and a laminator and a Velcro system, but to offer a menu, a visual menu, and be able to point to the food the child wants to eat, because we know kids are picky, and especially kids on the spectrum, they tend to be sensory driven and reject whole food groups. So giving them a visual, and it also increases exposure. That just being able to see the foods can be helpful. A lot of the times a child will try new food, not because it's seems to be delicious, but because they've just seen it. It's been on their plates. They can play with it. It is not the expectation of eating. It is just the exposure that helps them improve in their sensory driven foods. So we have a demonstration, and Lila is going to communicate that she wants to eat and what she wants to eat. So if you want to start using the buttons. Mama, eat. Okay, let's eat. What would you like to eat? Dessert. Dessert, yes. Let's look at some other choices too. We know we like desserts. What do we have on our plates? We have an apple. Fruit. It's fruit, and we have apples here. Dessert. But you would like dessert. We also have some crackers, and it's
not different than what our experience is, though, right?
Right. We have some ham. We can see the photo of the ham here. It's on the meat page.
Mm-hmm.
We have no. She's signing no. Would you like to tell me what you want to eat? Dessert. Okay. We do have a little bit of dessert here. So then the other books. So how does eating dessert make you feel, Lila? Happy. We feel happy. And if I say no dessert tonight, how do you feel? Frustrated. We feel frustrated. No dessert. Okay. And
awesome. So that's a book of emotions, that particular one there. That's
yes.
Right.
And the feelings are said with the correct tone of voice as well, which is important. You want the child to, if they're feeling frustrated, they want to say, I feel frustrated, not frustrated.
Right.
Making sure that name it to tame it, that they are having the opportunity to really communicate how they feel. It is important.
I love that. Name it to tame it. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Tame it.
It works for grown-ups too. If you can figure out how you're feeling, and if you can identify the emotion, you feel better. So do you want to do more, or are you all done? We made a deal. No potty jokes.
That's my kind of girl. That's it. That's awesome.
Okay. We have the let's go. And this is like a field trip, community book, different places to go to. So what are you going to go to now?
I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, she's
All right.
She's
Okay.
It's okay.
Right here, Mom.
Literal.
You are going to
Outside.
You're going to go outside
Bicycle.
and ride your bicycle.
Museum.
I would like to go to the museum. That's a good idea, but not today.
Outside. Museum.
Like the children's museum. I love that idea. Okay.
Brilliant.
So this is when you're all done. Thank you for your help.
Thank you, Lila.
Lila, thank you for the demonstration. Did you have enough to eat? Did you get dessert?
I'm getting hungry.
She is all done.
All done.
Okay.
That's brilliant.
I love you.
I love you, honey.
Wow.
Goodbye.
Fantastic.
Wow. So Natasha, how long ago, a couple of questions. Well, just how long ago did you come up with that? And how is your son doing now?
He is actually doing really well. Of course, we have our hiccups. Mostly it's driven by medical interventions. We just had a rough Thursday last week because he had to get some labs done, and that was brutal to say the least. But the medical stuff is getting worked out. I'm also a big advocate for genetic testing and not settling for just the basic microarray. We went through that and the microarray came back normal. And I said, that's not good enough. I want more information. And it took 3 years of battling insurance and getting the geneticist to appeal. And it really, they decided to go ahead and move forward with the appeal when our daughter became the same size as our son. Wow. And we now have a genetic disorder diagnosis. It's very rare, but it explains so much. And it's a lot of good information. I didn't know if he had a genetic disorder, could there be unknown medical issues and kidneys and organs and liver, things that we needed to know if he was going to be okay. So I think that genetic testing is extremely important. Right.
Genetic testing is sort of self-explanatory. I understand that. I know that, we were familiar with that when my wife was pregnant with our son. We had some of that that took place. But what is the can you tell us about microarray?
The microarray is the basic genetic test. So it's maybe for all the well-known genetic disorders, and a lot of times with autism, they will do a Fragile X test as well, and that's becoming quite common. And mostly if it's a developmental delay diagnosis, that's not enough. They need to have autism along with being failure to thrive or having some other medical challenges, medical problems in order to move forward beyond a microarray. But that's something that I've found with insurance and developmental disability and the doctors is if you don't back down, if you keep fighting, they will get on board. A lot of times they just want to see, are you serious about this? It took us 1.5 years to get a medical durable device paid for by disability and a court hearing and just nonsense. But really, if you don't give up, like keep fighting for the services, for the tools your child needs.
So the microarray is something that is genetic testing that essentially equates to scratching the surface.
Yes.
And then what you just described is, par for I don't think it's just par for the course, it's par for all courses, which is, you don't know what you get unless you fight for it. And sometimes, obviously, you can't fight for something that you don't know you have access to. So you not only have to fight for what you know, you have to fight to make sure that you educate yourself as to what it is that you have access to as well. And those are two different fights that go hand in hand.
Yeah, putting up the fight for what you know is available versus putting up a fight for the unknown. I don't know what I'm fighting for, but I'm not going away and I'm not backing down.
Right.
And I think overall that's the message that we find consistent with families in this special needs community, which is I don't know what I'm entitled to, and where do I go to get those resources? And we love to show folks like there's a lot of resources available out there. Once you know what you've got available to you, then you fight like hell. And it's unfortunate, but that is what happens I don't know about the rest of the world, but definitely in the United States. You know, when there's something that we're eligible for, we still have to dig for it to find it, and we still have to fight for it to get it, even though it's provided for. So you being an advocate for your child is admirable. It's why we call, you know, special needs parents warriors, because you feel like you're going to war. But the reality is this is consistent for even neurotypical children. Like, there's stuff that you as a parent want to make sure that your child has every tool available to them to be successful. And that's what we're trying to show, that the challenges that we have as special needs families transcend the world of special needs, the special needs community. It really is the great lessons for everybody to understand and to fight for. So amazing that you've done this. And I don't want to go off the subject, but I love the books that you've created. And the app that you put on your son's iPad, is that something that you've made you're just keeping for his stuff? You've made it available, you've turned it into an actual, I know you don't want to productize everything you're doing, but it's a product that people can access to.
We have the goal of turning this low-tech system into a high-tech system, and keeping a lot of the design elements of the color coding and the white space and the photographs, and making the jump from low-tech to high-tech much more easy, because it's not easy to implement in the home. And a lot of it, what I tell parents is to teach, it's called AAC, assistive augmentative communication. To teach AAC, you have to speak AAC. So if you're going to teach your child to speak Spanish, you speak Spanish in the home. And so that's the same way with assistive communication, is the parent needs to be modeling. And the goal for us, in addition to translating into other languages and pulling in native language speakers to do the audio, changing the food book to meet the cultural food so it's appropriate, but also bringing all that into an app. And my son has been using his device for years, and we would go to the playground, and inevitably somebody would approach us and ask us, where can I get that app? Because they have a nephew or a grandson or their own child who has a device, but they hate it. They don't want to use it. It doesn't make sense. And I understand that, because the stock model that is available doesn't make sense. I would not have been able to figure it out. And I'm a neurotypical adult. So to give it to a child who has learning disabilities, or who is a black and white thinker on the spectrum, that's absurd. We need to be speaking their language, not asking them to speak ours. Beautiful. So I redesigned the whole thing to meet his needs, and I hope to one day be able to design an app based off of what I designed for him. It's very interest driven. So before he was really in tune with relationships, his way of connecting with people was through their vehicles. So I added lots of different vehicles. And so SUVs, we had a Jeep Wrangler at the time.
Jeep Wrangler.
And then there are different make and model of Jeep Wrangler. And so I added all the people in his life, each of their vehicles that they would drive, I put onto the app so that he could connect with them. And a lot of it was breaking some of the rules in the speech in speech pathology. So you're not supposed to put a full sentence into a button. And I said, I don't care what the rule is. My son is going to speak a whole sentence, because they want them to link, like to create a full individual sentence, but we weren't there, and he wasn't going to be able to do that at that time. And I wanted him to be able to say what he wanted to say. So I programmed jokes and to teach him how to link and how to tell a joke. You know, the other children are able to tell these silly jokes. he should have those same rights. So
What's
And you
he
were-
call sleeping little? You called him a bulldozer.
so I don't know if you heard
That's
it.
hilarious. Yeah,
Yes.
sleeping cow.
And
Yeah,
then, and then you're referring to this as augmented.
Augmentative and assistive communication, AAC, or alternative and assistive communication. So honoring the child where they are in their development. They're not all ready to create a sentence based off of linking different buttons, and they should have, instead of a drawing of a mom, a cartoon, they should have mom's face. And instead of their therapist, their speech therapist, like speech therapist with a little cartoon, they should have the face on there. And all of our friends are on here, and we have a wonderful community of friends and families who have really helped us along the way and go out of their way to have conversations. And a lot of times I would contact them ahead of time and say, hey, Kenny's learning this new thing. Could you create a conversation about it? And they're lovely people. So of course they would do that. I would also, trying to think what else. Long story short, I hope that families more than anything take away from this that if their child is not speaking, get them assistive communication. A lot of times the emphasis is on speech, and get them communicating as the speech is developing. The research shows that the speech, offering a device or some means of assistive communication, it actually enhances their ability to speak. It does not restrict it or delay it. It improves. Right. And along with that, the behaviors.
Let me ask you this. My son is, our son is 15. He's verbal, but he may put together an entire sentence to express himself. He may not. For instance, recently he had an instance at school where there's another child that is very sensory driven, and as a result, was kind of just like touching him, whatever. He couldn't express clearly on his own that took place. But then at the same time, he's capable. Like, for instance, we have this thing where one day he was upset, and then for whatever reason, I started singing the names of the streets. That was about at least 3 years ago. Now we don't go driving anywhere without me having to sing each street sign as we drive by it. And for whatever reason, and sometimes I'm more tired than others. Yesterday, I was just in the best mood about it. And when he goes, "What street is this, Daddy? Sing it." And I said, "Well, if I'm going to sing it, you have to sing it when you ask me." And he was like, "Oh, no." And I was like, "Yeah, you got to sing it." And he actually says, "All right, I'll sing it if it makes you happy." And that's like, that's not typical for him.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So do you think that, sorry.
Oh yeah.
That is precious.
Do you think that using something like this could possibly, and I don't want to put you in a situation where you're guaranteeing something that you can't. What do you think the chances are that something like that could be used to have more moments like that?
I would recommend you research selective mutism. It's a very specific and accepted thing in the autism community. There are autistic adults who use devices. They are fully verbal and they can have conversations, but there are times that the speech is not there. The language piece is not there. They still have the thoughts. They have full stories they want to convey, but it's the mouthpiece that's missing. So a lot of them have a device or a type to speech. If your child can read and type, that's actually something that we're working on. Handwriting is scrapped for us. We're just going to work on typing, and then whatever novel ideas that our child will want to say, type it out, push the button, and it will speak the whole thing. So selective mutism is a really well-known or widely accepted concept. So offering an assistive communication route for when speech is not coming. A lot of times it's in a meltdown as well.
Right.
When, you know, they shut down and they can't be reasoned with, or they're not going to say, I feel so frustrated because my caregiver showed up 20 minutes late. Instead, they communicate by
A tantrum or
in some form or another. But it's communication and having some alternative way, because if you were to be in a foreign land and you only have so many sentences, you would need like the Google language app or something to communicate in, like you still have all these ideas. And I know that it's coming out a lot more now that autistic children, young adults, they have, they're brilliant and they see things in a way that neurotypical people maybe don't. They see the details. They're so perceptive with emotions. I didn't know I was going to go here with it, but it is something that it's has really guided our experience. Is that they are so perceptive with how the people around them are feeling. And I've actually had to have the conversation with some of our personal support workers that if you are and going through some depression or some anxiety, my child is going to pick up on it, and he is going to become very rigid and anxious himself. So this is not a personal attack. It's just, I need you to know that how you are feeling on the inside, he is going to know. And I've had that conversation with other parents that their child is the same way. They're so empathic. They can feel what others are going through.
Absolutely. And you know what? I just had a little bit of an epiphany. So we do this every day. Hopefully people are listening to this. I want you guys to listen to this really carefully. We do this every day. Obviously, there are some days that it's easier for me than others. And there's some days where I'll actually tell him, even though I do it, I was like, I really don't feel like singing every single sign. Dude, I'm just exhausted. And then I say that, and then I think like, that's my biggest problem. Life is not that bad and I'm an idiot, right? But yesterday, okay, here's what I'm going to do for everybody. I'm going to make sure that I give my best self when I sing the street signs, because yesterday as I was doing it, I wasn't just in a good mood doing it. I did something I did when he was a little younger, which is if we're at a stoplight, I'd go, what? Oh my gosh, what is that over there? And he's hesitant to look away because he knows that when he looks away, I'm either going to poke him or grab his kneecap and it'll tickle him. So we did that, and there was a lot of laughter in addition to me like, no, if I'm going to sing the sign, you do. But then look at what I get in return. Yeah. So, and I'd like to think that I'm present, but I was dense enough to be absent in the moment on many a day. So, always thankful for people being here on the show, but.
Yeah, Thank you.
Listen, thank you.
Natasha, we don't, there was a period of time, I think, when either Shawn or I had a tearful moment of realization, and it's been a while because these conversations are so amazing. But you struck a nerve, and again, I think as parents, when we're present to really some of the magnificence that occurs with our children, even in the simplest things, a comment like "if it makes you happy" it's so impactful. It's such deep ramifications too. Like there's more in there than what our children, show us than what's evident.
And it's not even hitting me till today what that meant. I'm taking for granted. Well, I wonder where he picked that up from, because that has to be something that he got from YouTube. I mean, but he said it appropriately, so I can't discount that. And I'm not just. I don't just have like tears of gratitude here. I also have tears of guilt, because I'm thinking of the days where I'm just like reading the sign, like Angelino Avenue, or just, where I'm less present, like
these are things that are not typical to parenting. These are experiences that are so unique and special to what we're going through, and others are not experiencing just these enchanting moments. I can say because I have one of each, and there are just beautiful moments with my daughter, but in those moments of just intense connection with my son, it blows my mind. And when you see them do something that maybe you would miss out, you wouldn't see this profound moment or like this huge thought, but we get to see that, and it's so special for us.
Yeah.
The depth.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Because it's
my
like
husband.
well, it's true, because I feel like, oh, there he is. Hi, Ken. Thankful. I'm glad he showed up. For those that are listening, they're like, what are they talking about? Natasha's husband is in the chat here on Facebook Live. So that's fantastic.
And his comment was, keep singing, Shawn. That's just letting everybody know what he's saying. Keep singing, Shawn.
You know what? He is right there with you. Like, he's tired. I'm tired. but we keep showing up. Even on days where we don't have it.
Yeah. Because I caught myself as I was in the middle of it. Yeah, that's the other thing too. We have these worthy thoughts that we whose value we sort of let go. Because a thought that I had right in the moment, I was having a moment of great critical thinking. Because as I did it, I was enjoying the mood in our interaction, and I was even saying to myself, and it's funny how you just let things go. I didn't share this with my wife, and I might share it with Brian. I would say, oh, check this out. Here's what happened today. I didn't share it with my brother. And those are the 3 people, or my mom, that I would share a milestone or a moment with. I shared the milestone with my wife and told her about what he did, but we laughed. I didn't dig deep as we are now. And I had a very conscious and critical thinking moment where I said, I got to make sure that I can sustain this on the days where I don't feel like it, and not just in the car and with him, but how do I give this to myself and everybody I meet every day where I'm feeling like at my most, like, and I thought about it last night. Brian and I have been working on some stuff in our financial business, and it's a breakthrough that we had in terms of being able to help a family and that kind of thing. And I thought of how good I felt about that. And I thought, how do I hold on to this, even if it's like raining oil around me in a given moment? That's such a big,
I would say, challenge. Put it on sticky notes or hang on your rearview mirror if it makes you happy. Just like some reminder to, like, I'm going to dig deep, and when I don't have it, it's there. I just need to dig more. Yeah. There was a moment, it made me think of when our son was still attending public school, and he's always been into vehicles. And one day I was like, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to play cars. Playing cars again is not
for the 50th time
what I want to do, but all right, we'll sit down. And he's playing with the bus, and he's got the little people, and he puts the baby on the bus, and the bus goes away. And mama, 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 as the bus is driving away with the baby. And the mom comes and saves the baby and takes it off the bus. And if I hadn't been like in that place to think deeper, I would have just been like, oh yeah, we get you off the bus when you get home from school. But we were having problems getting him on the bus and at school, even if like shortened days and all of the accommodations. But he was communicating to me through play, get me off the bus, mom, come save me. And it like took me aback, just like, wow, this is really deep, and I got to fix this. So I know with Echolalia and social stories, our kids really communicate profound thoughts. A lot of times we have to slow down and perceive and recognize that still waters run deep. They are deep thinkers. we just can't look at them through the neurotypical lens and through that they are not reading at age 5 and toilet trained at age 2 or 3. We need to look at them from a different lens and recognize that they are profound thinkers. They are just thinking, you know, the whole like neurotypical versus autism, the Apple versus Microsoft, they are a different thought process system. And if we can slow down, put our agenda aside, that's something I've learned so much with my son, is he can sniff out an agenda. And if you are coming into the room with a checklist, you better check that. It is not going to happen. And I've stumbled across some really great tools. One is pathological demand avoidance, and using humor and using declarative language, and just a very different thought. It's not timeouts and taking things away. It is, we are partners in life. And that is something that our family has really learned, me and my husband and me and the kids together, the 4 of us, that we are co-exploring. We are going on this journey together, and that has really changed our family dynamics for the better.
Yeah, there's 2 things you mentioned that I wanted to touch on. Because our audience is broad and our goal is for it to be even broader. For those that aren't familiar with echolalia, that is the repetitive, the repetitious, the repeating of either a sound or a word, which can also often give us the false impression that there's no real connection between the word and it's just being said. Sometimes that's true, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's there's a great deal of meaning there. And then the other thing is what I took away from what you just said, which I'm being reminded of, as should be any other parent, especially if they're new to a diagnosis, which is that, throw what you know out the window and always be prepared for something new to be brought in the window, meaning that, your child simply receives differently. People from the outside looking in know me as I'm Mr. Present, I'm there, higher level consciousness and all that kind of stuff. But, if I can be dense, anybody can. So the idea is to always remember that there's a struggle to get out what it is they're trying to get out. There's so much more there than we would know. And who would think that I would need to have someone on here to remind me of that? Now, my wife would probably almost never need that reminder, but I just do it. I'm thankful for it. What's that?
We all need the reminder. The other night, I had spent, during the day, I had spent time with my daughter, and the caregiver was with our son, and it was great. And come inside, we had dinner, and my husband said, "Hey, why don't you go spend time with Kenny?" And it was a good reminder of like, oh, I haven't really sat down and just connected me and him today. So I needed that reminder. And Kenny and I went outside and we hung out with the goats, and he got really dirty, and it was just nice to have that time together. So even moms, or the one who's up to bat most of the time, we need the reminder too. It's not isolated to dads or.
Yeah. Well, in fact, I was going to say, the great thing about it is that Ken seems to be, incredibly involved and conscious and aware. And so we think, Shawn and I think, that dads, special needs dads, similar to our special needs children, we have the ability to communicate, to be deep thinkers, but oftentimes we're not, or we put ourselves in a box, or we're easily compartmentalizing, the work that we do. And the reality is that this is a partnership. It takes a village. It takes a partnership. It takes an amount of awareness. If we want our children to have great success in the world, and part of that is supported by the fact that both parents, by the way, even if they're co-parents, not in living in the same house, that both parents have that.
Blessing to have both parents involved and cheering the child on. That's huge.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think, listen, again, hats off to you both. And, what's so funny is that for folks that don't know, when we set the conversation up with our guests, you know, we little back and forth. We have some communication, and one of the things that Natashia said was, I'm an introvert, and so if anybody's watching this show thinks that Natashia is an introvert, I think that they're yeah, okay. We're rethinking what that word actually means, because I mean, honestly, I think for somebody who's really just taken, you know, a practice of what is going to be effective for my child to be able to communicate, for me to communicate with my child, you've turned it into a series of books and the, you know, assisted, you know, communication skills and an app and developing a way for people to communicate. Again, you've shared so much here today. It really is amazing contribution that you're making to not only the special needs community, but I think to every parent who wants to have better level of communication with their children, no matter what their
you've contributed to us here today. Yeah,
without a doubt.
As we get ready to head towards wrapping up, so we've Shawn Hall, our producer, has put a couple links in the chat. What do you have available, and where can they find it?
The books are available on our website. It's www.iwanttotellyoubooks.com. Okay. And all 7 books are there. There's also a little story behind the books, my story, Kenny's story. And when I wrote those pieces, it was really trying to tell from his perspective, because our experiences are not the same, even though we've been through all the events together. When I wrote it, I tried to honor his perspective specifically. I have social media as well, and on the social media, I try, if a parent offers a photo or a video of their child with the books, then I love to post it there. There's no greater honor than when I get an email or message from a parent telling me how much their child loves the books and that they've communicated for the first time. I've had a lot of moms say their child has never said I love you, and then they push the I love you button with genuine feeling behind it, and
wow,
it's so rewarding.
Wow.
That's
and I
fantastic.
think that isn't it amazing? Isn't that what all parents, they get blown away by the first time their child says I love you?
They're going to teach in speech therapy. You know, you're not going to learn how to say I love you. You're going to learn how to say more and all done, so you can generalize into other situations. But what fuels the parent to keep going is to hear I love you. That is
100%.
It's our fuel.
Everything. It's
amazing.
Wow.
Shawn, we're getting close to our.
Yeah, we are. We're at that point where we ask all our guests, because we are about change, evolution, and one's ability to change is the key to this world being made a better place. So we always ask our guests the following question, which is, if you can think of one thought, or more accurately, a belief that you've held dear. I mean, it's a firm part of who you are all your life, that you now feel the opposite or no longer feel the same about.
That is quite the question. I think that my husband and I were married for 10 years before children. And during that time, we weren't going to have kids. And I even said at one point that I was afraid of having a child who had medical challenges or special needs because of what I experienced with my mom. I was afraid of bringing a disabled child into the world, and we did. And I wouldn't change it for anything. I was wrong by feeling that we wouldn't have kids because I was afraid of what challenges they would have. But here we are, and Kenny has made us both better people. I will never be the same person I was before him. And if it was only Lila, I would still have some of those selfish ambitions, or not selfish, but just very self-centered in where you're going in life. And because of Kenny, I have a better connection with people in general. I've had the opportunity to work with disabled kids, and I want to work with disabled kids even more than just my own. I have new dreams, new ideas, and those ideas would not have ever even come to mind without him. So thinking that I didn't want to have kids, or that I was afraid of having a disabled child, and me and my husband, our marriage is a very different marriage than what it was prior to Kenny. Also, even though we're tired, we are better and stronger together now than what we were before.
Yeah, I had that experience with my daughter when she was diagnosed. I realized how while I was present, how little I was actually present. And it gave me special focus and just awareness. So I think that's beautiful. Well, we told you that the hour was going to go by quickly. I don't know if how you feel about it.
Did it go by fast? Did you think so?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
It always flies by. There's so much more that we can talk about, and we're hoping to get a chance to to have you on again and to talk further. And folks should go to iwanttotellyoubooks.com and see what Natasha's doing. It's brilliant. Look for an app. It's going to be coming out, and as we develop our outreach, Natasha, we're going to continue to communicate that to our readership and our viewership, and hopefully we'll get again tighten this web in this amazing community. So thank you for taking the time today and being with us. And as I said in the very beginning, communication is it's so critical to everything that we do. Isn't that amazing? Disagreements, a lot of the stuff that's happening in the country, in the world today, a lot of it is tied to the fact that we have an inability sometimes to communicate to one another, especially communication without empathy or love. And so I always say when I end the show is now is the time more than ever to have empathy for your neighbor, for the people around you, and if you look at folks in their situation with an expression of love, it will change everything. So today was a very special, right? Absolutely, and the fact that you get your child to say "I love you," whether it's through a communicative assisted device or they say it verbally, or if it makes you happy, those are meaningful moments for all of us. So Natasha, thank you again for the reminder, and thank everybody for who's catching us live on Facebook. Please share this with your friends. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on social media and on WSTX AM radio, our family down in U.S. Virgin Islands. We love you and thank you for being a part of what we do. And Shawn and I, while we have a different business that we operate professionally, our lives are given to us by this podcast and the work that we do with this community. So again, thank you again for participating as audience member and as our guest today. And with that, I'll throw it over to Shawn to close us out.
All I can say is, wow, Natasha, just thank you so very much for allowing me to shine a light on myself. Being reminded of that which I didn't think I needed to be reminded of, or I should say I forgot that I needed to be reminded of. For everyone that tunes in every week on every platform, my family in the Virgin Islands, listening on WSDX, thank you so very much. And as always, we like to say that there is no such thing as special needs. Everyone has the same need. Everyone needs to be heard. Everyone needs to be seen, needs to know that they matter, and needs to know that they're loved. Anyone that has a disability or diagnosis, whether it's a cognitive disorder or whatever the case might be, a catastrophic injury, you might need more of the same thing that everyone else needs, but everyone needs the same thing. And I want to make sure that I give a thank you to the most prominent women in my life, which is my mom, Jan, and my amazing wife, Laura. I could not begin to attempt to be who I hope to be without them. And I'm also going to not only thank my son, Elijah, but I think it makes sense to sign off every show with just, thinking of what follows if it makes you happy.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you again next week. Thank you, Natasha. It's great to have you. All right. Goodbye, everybody.